Aloha. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about the real world case of the Capital One breach. So, a number of years ago, 2019 to be specific, Capital One, which is a big credit card lender, big credit card issuer, they had a significant cybersecurity incident that exposed the personal data belonging up to 106 million customers and credit card applicants. So this breach occurred because there was a company's website application firewall, a WAF that we just learned about. A WAF was misconfigured, and it was exploited by a former Amazon Web Services employee. So the attacker took advantage of a server-side request forgery, what's known as an SSERF vulnerability, and gained unauthorized access to the AWS server that contained the sensitive customer data. So this affected customers not just in the US, also in Canada, and exposed names, addresses, credit scores, and in some cases, social security numbers, and linked bank account details. So this is a really bad one, but they became aware of it through the Responsible Disclosure Program, which was set up to allow ethical hackers to report issues that they've had. So this incident led to a substantial financial and reputational damage for the company. It included $80 million in regulatory fines and $190 million settlement for the affected customers. So remember, we talked about these incidents. Even if nobody is able to leverage that and steal somebody's identity, you still run into regulatory fines, hit to your reputation, and there is often lawsuits. And that, in this case, it was $190 million that got sent to the customers. And all this is over a misconfigured web application firewall. So yeah, when you consider the salary of a security person at 100 and something thousand a year, you compare it to the millions and millions that they just lost, a quarter of a million dollars, or no, a quarter of $1 billion. Sorry, that's a billion with a B. It really gets you thinking about this kind of stuff. So that single misconfiguration, it led to this widespread data exposure, and also highlighted the importance of regular firewall audits, proactive security assessment, and continuous monitoring to protect the sensitive information. So some of the lessons that were learned here. Number one, you got to manage your firewall rules for traffic. So you need to configure your rules for protocols like ICMP, and that's necessary for effective network traffic management. ICMP is often exploited by attackers, things like ping, the ping of death and stuff like that. So that's used for reconnaissance and denial of service attacks. So you really need to have granular traffic control here. So yeah, so another thing is you can utilize, and we've talked about this too, port scanning tools for security assessment. So you can use Nmap like we have in our labs. You can use Nmap to go through and try to figure out, what kind of ports you have open. So when you do a port scan there, you can see what kind of security gaps you have and, lock it down before it actually becomes a problem. Another thing you can do is you can restrict those unused ports to reduce the attack surfaces. So you can close your unnecessary ports, such as your web services, your HTTP on port 80, your SSH on port 22, which is often used for logging in to configure things. That's going to reduce your attack surfaces. It's going to limit your exposure to external threats that way. So, Capital One security lapses, they involved overly permissive access and left critical services exposed. So this is something you need to be careful of. Another thing is you need to control file sharing protocols to limit lateral movement. So when you restrict the file sharing protocols like SMB, this limits the number of unnecessary services. And this is particularly one that people use to when they can exploit this to get lateral movement. In other words, movement from the computer you're on into other computer systems. So you want to restrict unnecessary SMB, and file sharing protocols that are in use. So you want to do, for effective firewall management here, you need to do regular rule reviews, see if the rules that you have are effective, if they're necessary. You need to do port scanning. You need to restrict the unnecessary services. So that's going to minimize your attack surfaces and it's going to enhance your network defense. So the key takeaways from all this, number of things here: web application firewalls, they protect web-facing services by filtering and monitoring the traffic to defend against the application level effects like the SQL injection, cross-site scripting, but you need to have it, effectively, configured. You need access controls to enforce the authentication and the authorization mechanisms to restrict the unauthorized access. Enforce and oh yeah, and we talked about this before. The number one rule: enforce the principle of least privilege. That's so important to this. You can really contain the amount of damage somebody can do by making sure that everybody has the least privileges they need to do their jobs in the system. You should also do regular security audits, should identify your misconfigurations, your vulnerabilities, the gaps in security policies. That way you can mitigate the damage that'll be done by anybody that's looking to attack your systems. And you also do vulnerability assessments. You proactively uncover and remediate weaknesses in your systems, your applications, your network infrastructure. So that's all these things together. When you combine all these, you've got all these different methods. That's what we call defense in depth, and it's layered defense. So by doing all these different things at different layers, you're able to prevent. You have a more robust defense, and you think of it like a castle. When we talk about defense in depth, you have outside, you have a moat, then you have the drawbridge, then you have the people on top with the bows and arrows and the trebuchet or whatever they have. So you think of this in layers and layers of defense, and that's what you want in your network too. So anyway, this is Capital One's. This is a $250 million lesson. So yeah, do take that to heart. One little slip, one little misconfiguration, and you're toast. So do take to heart all the lessons here about port monitoring. Find your own vulnerabilities before others do. And that's it for the lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Aloha.